Yeah, we watched the full swing.
swing.
And she even said, she was like, very cliche, which we all know, but she was like, golf, it's like a metaphor for life. And I was like, yes, of course it is. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of the Observe and Rapport Show. I'm Kyle Brennan, and I'm here with my beautiful, as always, co-host Keith Sullivan. Keith, how we doing today?
Beautiful, as always.
And before we even get into it, I've always never wanted to say this, but if you can, please hit that subscribe button below.
Yeah, hit the subscribe button.
We're at that stage now.
Well, we should be fair and ask after, just because, do you like it,
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, probably like it first.
Even if you don't like it, just hit it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Add another page to your
Right.
YouTube.
Think about it. If you actually go through how many things you do subscribe to, it's probably a lot of shit you don't even watch anymore anyway. So I know that I went through mine. I do a little cleanup every once in a while, with my follower, people I follow. I'm like, I don't even know, who is this? You got to look through it every once in a while.
I should do that.
Yeah. Dude, there are so many people. You'll go through it. It's fun. You go through it, you go, oh yeah, this douche from he's a skateboarder and I used to like it, whatever, who cares?
Well, it's I feel like Facebook got to that point after, we all got Facebook in 2009 or whatever it was, or 2007, I don't remember. And then 10 years go by and you're like, who the fuck is this person? And
yeah.
Now Instagram is getting to that point.
Facebook's great for that, though. Sometimes people could pop up. You're like, oh, yeah, this guy got married. Good for them. A lot of people are doing good now. Our age, people got houses and kids. And
I think Instagram, I got it in 2013, so it's been 10 years.
Did you? That long ago?
That's a long enough cycle to be like, I don't know.
I don't even remember what life was in 2013. What was it like even back then?
My favorite thing is going back to either my original first posts on Instagram or other people's in 2012, 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone back then, no one was self-promoting. Everyone was just taking regular pictures of trees and the ocean and posting it with
food
with a shitty filter.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it turned into, here's what I'm doing with my life. Here's the vacations I'm going
The influencer was born. Yeah. It's interesting. My wife's obsessed with women who do the morning routine. Okay, hi guys. So every morning, this is what we do. The first thing I do is I have some, fruit water, whether it's lemon or lime, whatever water. And then I wake up Angela and then we go downstairs for it's amazing how doing what everyone does is now sold somehow as it's amazing that this woman has a morning. It's not a routine. It's simply what everyone does every morning.
Yeah.
It's no different than anyone. I've seen a bunch of them. These women all do the same thing. I don't know what I think it's the aesthetic of the house and it's judgy. You can judge oh, look at her curtains. Look at her. Maybe that's what it is,
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of entertainment, right? You just like seeing the things that you like to see. So for us, it's I'll just watch golf videos all day.
Right.
Most of the time.
But. Yeah. Everything becomes something you can sell something on eventually.
Yeah. That's
true.
Know.
Now what's coming back is the digital cameras. Have you seen now that now people want to make their photos less good?
Yeah.
Because everything's too good now.
Yeah.
So now the Polaroid had been back, but now digital Canon, shit like that, people are selling them at pawn shops now for $100 a piece.
Yeah, I feel like vintage 90s stuff is coming back, which they say cycles tend to be 30-year cycles for trends. So now it's been 30 years, believe it or not, since the 90s.
That's true, 30 years.
So now baggy jeans are coming back,
right?
And, high platform shoes and digital cameras and bucket hats.
We got to bring a boy band back into this world. We can need a Backstreet Boys or an NSYNC. I think that's what the world needs right now is a solid, bye, an anthem for everyone, no matter who you are. Everyone loves it, that kind of thing. What are you reading, Kyle?
What am I reading? So the best book I read recently was one that took me 2 months to read because it was fucking for a number of reasons, but it's called A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. She's a Japanese author, and this book, it's a novel. It's written about 4 college students or 4 college roommates who live together in New York City. And 2 of my coworkers recommended it to me. They were like, Kyle, you're a huge reader. You like books. You got to read this book, A Little Life. So they say, but be prepared. Like, it's gonna rip your heart out. Like, you're gonna cry. Like, read it with read it with a box of tissues. And I'm like, okay, like that doesn't sound like a book I want to read, but I'll check it out. So I go to the bookstore in town, the next chapter, and I buy it. And it's around Christmas time when I buy it, and the cashier is like, "Oh boy," she's like, "Be prepared."
Yeah.
She was like, "Don't read this over the holidays because it's
okay.
like it's emotional. It's gonna take you for a ride." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" And like every review on Amazon, it's like the same thing.
The same thing used to happen to me at Mr. Cheapo's, just for example, like FYE, you'd buy a CD, and the guy would go, "Oh, dude." Like you're like, "Oh, really?" And he's like, "Bro, bro, you're gonna love."
But that's also when you know it's good. Like someone on the train stopped me, and they're like,
shit.
They're like, "Oh man, that book took me
That
for
happens
a
to me
ride."
on the train sometimes. That happened to me with Project Hail Mary.
I like that when
that
people.
happened to me.
I don't mind. I actually love it when people come
it's
up
great.
and say something.
Conversation starter.
I've never done it to a stranger, despite how much I love
Me
books.
neither. I would never.
No, I would not want it because I'd assume the other person's like, "Fuck off." Like,
yeah.
But I guess if they're big enough into books, they'll appreciate it. So
what's this going?
Anyway, I read this book, and essentially it surrounds 4 characters, 4 roommates, but one is kind of the main character. And it's this guy. It's an 800-page book, and for about 500 pages, his background is like mysterious. Like his roommates don't know much about him. He always wears long sleeves. He's very quiet. He never really talks about high school or like where he grew up or his parents or anything. So everyone kind of assumes like, okay, he had like a fucked up childhood, and like we think he was like an orphan. We think he might have gotten like beaten or abused in some way.
Yeah.
And like slowly throughout the book, more details emerge. Like, so it goes through like his point of view, and then it'll go through his roommate's point of view of what he's thinking. And it just like the whole time you're turning the page because you're like, what the fuck happened to this guy? Like, where did he grow up? Like, what happened to his parents? Why is he so mysterious? But he's also brilliant. And it's a page turner. But every time you learn something new about him, it's just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, wow, like that happened to him.
Sure.
And I'm not going to ruin anything, but it's just like he had a fucked up past, and it just gets more and more and more fucked up. And he just keeps getting back up and like gritting through life and like, becoming successful and stuff. But there's death, there's agony, there's tragedy, there's injuries, and there's terrible relationships.
Yeah.
And there's just the theme of the book really is, despite all this kid's suffering, he has this entire community around him of people who he meets in college and afterward who are the nicest people in the world to him, and they love him with so much, but he doesn't feel like he deserves their love.
Right.
Because
low self-worth because
he has such low self-worth that he never fully gives himself to them. And it's just such a tragic.
Sure.
It's so well written. It's like she describes feelings that you or I have never had in our life, because by all accounts, compared to this kid, we had an amazing life. And it's stuff that me and you have never experienced, and most readers of the book have never experienced, but the author makes it feel like a common thing that anyone could understand. And she describes like conversations where it's like your best friend is kind of asking you like, "Hey man, what's going on?" But like you're about to tell him, but you don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
And then like someone interrupts and you never get to have that conversation. And it's just those feelings that like rip your heart out. You're like, "Oh, I've had that feeling before."
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just an unbelievable book. But it took me 2 months to read because, yes, it's 800 pages, but it was also like I could only read it 20 pages at a time without going like, "Holy shit."
Sure.
Like, fuck. Like, it was just... I
Overwhelming.
never cried, but it was just like your chest tightens up.
Uh-huh.
So I gave it 5 out of 5 reviews. It was unbelievable.
What's the name again?
A Little Life.
A Little Life.
By Hanya Yanagihara.
You said
Japanese
it already.
name. Yeah.
A new book?
I think it's maybe 5 years old. She just came out with a new one, and I was like, how could she come out with a new one? I feel like she probably poured her entire emotional heart and soul into that one book. I can't imagine her writing another one. So
It reminds me of, it sounds like you're talking about it in the same way that I talk about A Gentleman from Moscow by Amor Towles.
I haven't read that, but I've heard
so
it's really good.
It's a really long book, like you just said. I don't know if it's 800, maybe like 600 or something, but it's a long book. But it's just so well written that doesn't matter, kind of thing, you know. And it's just about a guy, right? It's not necessarily a tragedy like yours is, but it's mundane in a way, but it's well written to the point. And I wonder a lot of the time, like, how important that is. Like, a book can be like, that premise isn't necessarily insanely interesting in the description, but a well-written story with that premise is the difference, right? Because they can talk about something like you said, a feeling everyone's had, but give it to you. Like, she addresses the emotion, not necessarily the details, and gives it to you, and you have to shut the book, and it makes you talk about it because you felt something. That's the importance of a well-written, like a good writer. People like there's people who write books that aren't good writers, in my opinion. You know what I mean? But a Chuck Palahniuk or an Amor Towles, like, they just have a linguistic like style, and it's like when like Jimi Hendrix plays guitar and you just know it's him, kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's so cool how like there's different genres of not just writing or books. There's like different genres of how you write like a fiction book or a nonfiction book even. So like, for example,
yeah, was this from his perspective? Like, was it like, I'm this person living this life, or was it like
it would switch multiple times, which was cool. I kind of like when authors do that, where they'll switch the narrative between, it's like first person narrative, and then it'll switch to third person narrative, and then it goes back and forth, because then it kind of feels like more of a story where you're like, you experience it through multiple people's eyes.
Yes.
And then it kind of triangulates at the end. I think that's really cool.
That doesn't happen enough in books, in my opinion. There's always like one person, or it's always third person or second or whatever, but to go from perspective to perspective depending on the chapter or the character. And I like when they don't even tell you. You just have to figure it out like halfway through the first paragraph. You're like, oh, that's what she does.
That's what she does. Yeah, there's no like title or chapter title. It just starts with someone's thoughts and words, and you don't really know.
That sounds like a really good read.
It's so good.
That sounds good.
Yeah, and it's also like those types of books where it changes the narrative. Like, that's why it's hard to translate those types of books into like a movie, because like, how do you you have the words so well written and the feelings described from other people's perspectives. How do you put that into like a movie dialogue? It's very difficult.
I guarantee you though that book gets made into a movie, because it would be a Pulp Fiction, for example. Like,
I think they're trying to make it into a like Broadway play.
I think so, because I know that's difficult to do, but directors who can handle that kind of thing, a Quentin Tarantino or a Martin, like a Martin Scorsese, something like that, that's when a Pulp Fiction gets made. That's when like a Departed gets made. Those movies that are from other people's, you go into other people's homes and living rooms and you see where they live. Like, it's truly a different perspective, and it's the same story happening. Those are the best movies.
Yeah. And
best books too.
If that does get made into a play, God help the person who plays
Standing
that character.
O's, dude. Standing O's, crying, the whole thing.
Because if he has to do that every single night.
When's the last time you went to a Broadway performance?
2 weeks ago, actually.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You
Harry Potter.
Yeah,
it was good. It's good.
Was it?
I like it. Don't get me wrong. I'm just not one of those like fanboys of Harry Potter.
No, me neither.
I think sometimes I think it's just that I get bothered by anyone who gets overly enthusiastic about it.
Well, you're not a witch. You're not. You're not a wizard, so.
But anyway, the play was really, really good. Every time I see a Broadway play, I'm like, these people don't get enough credit.
They don't get enough money.
They should be
the millionaires and the billionaires.
They're so much more talented. It's unbelievable.
I saw Dear Evan Hansen live right before the pandemic, and I cried in my seat, man. Like, I'm tearing up because there's so many parts of that play that are sad, but just the performance vocally is impressive enough. Like, just these notes that they can, and it's live, right? Like, it's just a person doing that in front of you, and like, you actually, like, there was this one point at the end of the second song in the play, I think, where he hits this really triumphant note at the end, and it's long, and he holds it, and it's high, and I didn't even make the conscious decision. I just went, like, like, you just have to, you have to get up, like, because they did something worth your acknowledgement. Like, you just can't help it.
Yeah, and what me and Lauren talked about afterward, the coolest part about a Broadway play is when you think about it, it's really like the oldest form of entertainment. Like, people were watching Broadway plays 500, 600 years ago.
In caves, people would put on.
They were doing the same thing, and now we're just as entertained 500 years later, and like, that's really cool to see.
It is. It's almost like an athletic performance too. Like, some of these people, like, they're really they're giving their heart and soul, and like, it takes effort, man, to sing and run around. It's hard.
And like you said, like those are the people who should be credited. You can tell certain Hollywood actors who are in like movies, who have Broadway backgrounds.
Yeah, Jeff Daniels,
Hugh Jackman, even fucking Jason Alexander when he plays George Costanza. Like George Costanza, his acting as George Costanza is so fucking good.
It's cartoonish.
He is my favorite television character ever, because I think his acting of George Costanza is just so phenomenal.
Yeah, because like Kramer gets the explosive characteristic attached to him, but George does a lot of shit like that too, where you're like, look at this guy go. Like he's like a little wound up toy.
And he has so many good like monologues, like the what's the one where he takes the golf ball out of the whale, or the marine biologist scene?
I'm not the biggest Seinfeld guy. I love Seinfeld, but I don't know it like that. Like I know Curb like that. I can tell you Curb episode by hand, but like, go on. What's this golf ball thing?
No, I'm not gonna do it justice. But
only Jason Alexander can do that.
But what are you reading right now?
So I had this thought. I heard a quote recently. Someone said, like you die twice. You die when your physical body ceases to function, and then you die again the last time someone says your name. And I thought that was interesting. But what happened was, and then now there's like a third one with the new technology we have where your face is seen for the last time in a photograph or a film. It just got me thinking about people we still talk about who are ancient, whatever. And I was like, where are the obvious ones? We got Jesus, right? We've got Gandhi. You didn't eat for 3 weeks, whatever. You hated the British. Like, I know enough about you where I don't want to read a book kind of thing. But then I thought of like Genghis Khan. And I'm like, everyone knows that guy's name. But why do we still talk about that guy? He killed a bunch of people. Who hasn't, right? Hitler. Everyone does. But like, I had this feeling that like, it's not just that he raped and pillaged his way to fame. I thought there must be something else to him. So I read a book. I'm not done with it yet. It's very long, but like it's called Genghis Khan, The Making of the Modern World. And that title gives it to you right there, like the making of the modern world. This guy had a lot more to do with literally everything. So I'm reading about him. It's a biography, really, and it's from this passed down documentation of his life called The Secret History of Gandhi. And because I guess in Mongolia, I mean, this guy literally was like nearing godlike status as far as a human. And anyway, his real name is Temujin, and he grew up in like the mountains of Mongolia and blah, blah, blah. And he was really nobody for a while, but just legend says that he was born clutching a blood clot from his mother's vagina in his hand. And she like noticed, and she said that she knew from that moment that something was different about him. Like he was an angry, bloodthirsty kid. And it's true, he killed 2 of his brothers by the time he was 18 years old over territory, over women, over disputes for, chief status, whatever it was. But I don't want to get into the whole raping and pillaging thing as much as I want to get into the things that he did as far as society is concerned and as far as viewing the world is concerned. So like at the time when people were taking over a territory, they would just kill everybody, right? Kill everybody, rape everybody, take the women as slaves, take the strong men as slaves, and then they'll work for our effort, right? But Genghis Khan had this approach of like, what do you do? He'd had everybody come up to him while he's sitting in his throne. He'd be like, what do you do? And some guy would come up, I dig graves. I'm a grave digger. And he'd go, we can use you. And the guy would be like, what? And like, so they'd go to they were still prisoners, but he would use everyone's talents towards his goal. He ran a meritocracy, basically. Right. Whatever you were good at, you did that thing for him. He didn't just take the soldiers and use them. So why he would take gravediggers, for example, is the next time he showed up at some kingdom that had a big wall, instead of wasting ammo trying to knock it down, he'd have these guys dig underneath it. So he saw the value in everyone. It's
almost like, did you watch Game of Thrones?
Yeah, of course, loved it.
It's like Daenerys Targaryen, when she would take over all these different armies. She would take the slaves and be like, "You're free now," and like she would use them.
Yes.
So I listened to Genghis Khan Making of the Modern World. I actually didn't finish it because it's like 16 hours, I think.
Dude, long.
I might have listened to like 10 hours of it.
Yeah.
While I was like painting this room, probably.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's crazy. Like he was, like you said, like the first person to actually like find value instead of just burning everything.
Exactly.
He would be like, I mean, he was still a savage.
Oh my
but
God.
he had a little bit more of like intellect.
He was wise.
That he wasn't just brute force.
Right.
He had some intellect in his savagery, and like he had a very strategic mind.
Yes. He also was, like you said, to his savage behavior, like to his ruthlessness, he would just take prisoners from old civilizations he conquered just to lay down and pile up into the moats so that his war machines could go over the moat, over a road made of human flesh, and then he would catapult over the walls. He, so like there was parts of him that were definitely like horrible, but like, again, useful. These people don't know how to do anything. We can still use them for something. He wasn't a stupid man. Like he knew that everyone has something to offer, right? So like you got to think too, like the Mongolian Empire was bigger than the Roman Empire, and it got there 4 times quicker or something, right? Like he was very quick, very expansive. Basically from the eastern shore of China all the way to like frickin' France. Like it was all his, like Russia, Asia, the whole thing. And he was the first guy to rule that much territory where he had to have the thought of like, look, realistically, so many people are under my umbrella that I have to consider freedom of religion, because there's different faiths now intermingling between them in the Mongolian Empire. Like there can't be one God, there can't be a God. Like let's just do, he was the first guy. He goes, you know what? Complete total religious freedom for everyone. Everyone. You can do whatever you want, whether you believe in 16 gods or 6 or 1 or no God. It doesn't matter. That idea at the time was unheard of. Like you only interacted with people who believed the same faith as you. Now people are like intermingling who don't have the same religion at all. For example, you and I would know each other back in the day, but like your friends, dude, like you didn't interact with anybody who wasn't your family or
Right.
kin. And he changed that because he saw the value in other people and like created this society where like, hey, what do you do? I do this. I do that. Maybe we can help each other. It sounds obvious now again, but when you go into any historical thing like that happened that long ago, you realize that like someone did kind of make that happen.
And yeah, and I guess when you say like making of the modern world, like that almost sounds like an extremely crude form of like capitalism.
Exactly.
That's right. Like,
That's what I'm saying.
it's like, what are you useful for? How do we incentivize people to continue to work with us and for the economy of the Mongolian Empire?
He reestablished the Silk Road because they said there was a saying back in the Mongolian Empire that a guy could travel with a gold, 50-pound plate over his head and not be harmed from one end of the empire to the other, because it was so well protected, because he understood trade is necessary and you can't have people robbing merchants along the Silk Road and stuff like that. So he reestablished that so that people who were trading and blacksmiths and stuff like that could get their shit from one end to the other. And like a trade route was established from one end of the continent to the other because of him. So like that's why we still say that guy's name. It wasn't just that he was ruthless, although he was, but he also, like, for example, hunting laws. He was like, we're killing too many animals. It's enough. You can't just kill animals whenever the hell you want. Hunting laws. Kidnapping was illegal, because back in the day, you just go up to some guy's house. Oh, his wife's small enough, and I could kill him. Hit him with an arrow, take his wife. Very simple. He was like, listen, no kidnapping. You can't just take someone's wife because they're small and like you can get away with it. That's illegal now. There's a million things this guy that, again, seems second nature to us, but the making of the modern world is not entirely up to him, but hugely. It took someone with that much power and control over people to realize, like, hey, we need like rules. Like, there's no way we can all coexist unless we have certain. And by the way, one more thing is that his rules apply to all, including himself, not just citizens. So judges, royal advisors, everybody has to adhere. Everybody. Not again, common now, kind of, but
It's wild to think of, like you say, like how many names there are in history that everyone knows and we all remember. When you really think about it, I think Tim Urban, the guy I've talked about before, the Wait But Why.
Yeah, Wait But Why guy, yeah.
He has a graph. It's like a timeline, and like each bar represents, like 100 years or so. And like in those 100 years, who was the most prominent figure in history? And he has like all these different ones over like 2,000 years. It's really only like, I don't know, 12 people,
right,
that truly like they made such an impact in their 50, 70 year lifespan that like it created ripple effects throughout. And it's amazing how just like one person, and even in Genghis Khan's case, it's like a fucking kid in a mountain town in Mongolia. Like, what are the chances of him succeeding there, let alone becoming one of the most influential people to ever live?
Mm-hmm.
It's just wild how someone
born in the year of the horse, by the way.
Yeah, how someone with that. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
how someone with that like vision to like see the world and like, I mean, he did terrible things, but he did some good things, like any great influential person.
Right.
It's just crazy how like one person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about me or you just having that power to like make decisions, and like everyone else is just like, okay.
Yeah.
Like,
but even in the Roman Empire, there was no freedom of religion. Like, there was like a general, like, hey, I guess, but hey, Zeus though, like, come on, like, it was like if you didn't like at the end of the day wear the thing and whatever, like you were out. Like, but Genghis Khan's like, no, man, like anybody can do whatever they want. You just have to follow these.
Isn't it crazy? We take that for granted of freedom of religion.
Yeah,
I've never thought about that. Like, what if I could?
Dude, I used to work at a building, right, where this guy, I never introduced myself to him, but because he wasn't really on the crew, but he worked there nonetheless. At whenever the Muslims pray, I don't know, I think it's sundown or whatever,
it's
but
3 times a day.
Yeah, this gentleman would always pray in the middle of the freight hallway, where because I guess it was the only place where he could access to face the sun in a certain direction or whatever. So. But everybody respected that. Dude, there were construction workers, blue collar, racist for sure, from like South Shore, Long Island, 100%. But there's part of this understanding that we all have in this country where, dude, he's praying. Leave him alone. You have no right to tell him what to do. These guys were lugging hand trucks of concrete around this guy, completely respecting his space, and they wouldn't say like when they walked by him, like, they'd be like, "Wow, look at that guy! Good for him!
Yeah,
good for him!" You know. And I'm like, dude, this is America, bro. I love this. That is crazy. Place.
Yeah.
And this guy, and he'd be bowing on the rug. He'd be bowing, and like he would be there for an hour. But he was a construction worker who was Muslim, and he would pray, and everybody respected that. And like we do take it for granted, for sure.
It is because think about him doing that and doing anything else. Like if he was just sitting Indian style eating like a bag of chips.
Yeah, like, dude, Jim, get up and fucking help me. Like, you know? But it's obvious that he's doing his thing. And, like, everyone knew it and respected it.
That is really beautiful to, like, think about. That.
Sure. I saw recently, not to go on again, but there was a couple in my area where I work now, 2 definitely Hispanic guys who were homosexual. They were in a relationship, holding hands, kissing, the whole thing on the street. And they're like walking down the street, taking pictures with each other and like selfies in front of, you know, the building that I work at. And I'm like, you know, these guys are so happy and they're having a great day. And I'm sure because there's machismo and stuff like that, you know, in the Hispanic culture, it's not necessarily accepted to the extent that it is in this country. They're here so that they can probably just live their lives the way they want to live them. And it made me like super like emotional. Like I almost teared up a little, like, thank God that's a place like this exists for these guys to just have a great afternoon with each other. Because they love each other.
Yeah, you don't think about how like in some cultures in the Middle East, like
not happening, bro.
Well, no, like
not happening.
Not even to that level, but like kids can't even wear like jeans.
No.
You know what I mean? Like there's so many strict religious rules that they can't even listen to like I remember reading this book called like The Last Persepolis. It was about a woman growing up in Iran in the 80s, and she couldn't listen to Michael Jackson, who was the biggest musical artist.
Can you imagine going your whole life and then you hear Beat It and you're like,
yeah. Imagine like being so restricted that you can't listen. Like today, you're being so restricted you can't listen to freaking like, you know, Drake or Rihanna. Like Shut Up and Drive comes on. Yeah. Your mom is just like, punts the radio.
I'm super into heavy metal, you know, and like there was a band in Pakistan, I think, that they're in jail to this day for playing that music. Like, wild. Can't do it. No, not okay.
Yeah, I actually saw a clip today on like Instagram. It was a comedian talking about. It's like, you know, it's kind of bullshit. Like America, all these articles talking about how like America is racist, and it's like we are the least racist country to ever exist.
Yeah.
Like when you think about it, he's like every country is racist.
Literally.
He goes, but they just have less races. He goes, America is seems more racist because we have all of the races.
Yeah. Well, it's exactly.
It's like we're the only country that actually allows all of them to live in one place. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like so it's like yeah, we don't like you, but like Yeah, we'll let you in.
We only allow them all to live in one place.
Yeah.
It's no, because like I saw an Uber fact today that was like Switzerland is the most economically stable country in the world or something, and I'm like, yeah, because you literally can't be anything but Caucasian and live there. Like, or is that Finland or something, like the Netherlands, where like they're like, no, you can't. You got to be white if you're gonna live here. We're Finnish. You can't.
Every country is extremely racist.
Yeah, and it's like of course they're economic. There's 8 million people there.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah,
how hard is that to figure out?
I remember being in. I've studied abroad in Denmark, which is the size of Massachusetts. Right. When you think about
it's a country.
It's a country. They have their own language. Like everyone looks exactly the same. It's like, yeah, obviously they're racist. Everyone's blonde hair, blue eye, white, and like 6 feet tall. Someone who's like 5'5" and brown comes in, they're gonna look at them differently.
100%.
They're gonna judge them, and I think it's beautiful the fact that yes, America, we have a dark past and we have a lot of racism in here, but at the same time, it's beautiful that we allow every race to coexist.
Yeah, and
the majority of the time, we coexist completely normally.
Exactly.
With no hiccups, no problem.
Exactly. And those guys that I saw on the street having a great afternoon, it's like fucking
think about someone from Sweden seeing that guy pray in the hallway like that would be like, what the fuck is going on here? Or someone from Iran coming here and seeing the gay couple might look like, what the fuck's going on? But everyone you live here, you adjust, you realize, okay, I guess this is normal here and this is accepted. And it might take a few years to get rid of your bigotry or how you view those people and judge them. But after a while, you're like, oh, they're not harming me in any way. They're living their life. I'm living my life.
It's like, yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah,
we're doing it the best of anyone else, really.
Are you reading anything else besides that amazing book?
The other book I read that was cool. I'm reading a bunch of books, but like
I know you're always reading 20. But.
Yeah. The other one I thought was really cool was called Attached, which is the science of like attachment in relationships. Which I've never read a book about relationships. Like I'm 2 years married at this point.
Right.
Been with my wife for 7 years.
Things are going fine. Yeah.
Things are going fine, but I think it's always good to just educate yourself on like because men and women are so bizarrely different, and for me that fascinates me. Because sometimes, like, I like listening to comedians, and comedians tend to poke fun at, like, how men and women are different. And I always laugh at that stuff. But generally, I'm just super interested. I'm like, we really are two different species, in a sense. Like, we think so opposite. And this book talks about how the majority of people fall into 3 attachment styles when it comes to relationships. So the first is anxious, meaning you're always kind of seeking validation from your partner. From a boyfriend or girlfriend, you're kind of always worried that they're judging you or they're thinking about you or they're avoiding you or like you're always a little anxious, right? And that tends to be about 25% of the population falls into the anxious category. The other is called avoidant, which is another 25%, which are people who tend to seek independence and don't like to get too close or attached when it comes to okay, we're getting too close. I'm going to actually start to separate myself from this person. And then third is just stable people, which is about 50% of the population who just have normal, loving relationships. But I found that super interesting. I found that I tend to fall into more of the avoidant category. So I like to have my independence. I like to have my autonomy, my time by myself, kind of.
Yeah.
And it just teaches you the ways that, like, okay, if you're a avoidant person, here's how you should look to your relationships and how your partner may be affected by the way that you act, even though you think it's totally normal.
Oh, I see the point of the book now.
Yeah, so it's really cool, and it's just like stuff I've never thought about before.
Yeah,
because you always assume you're doing it the right way,
right?
Or you assume nothing's like. We're not getting in fights, so everything's going well.
Yeah.
But like you can always be doing better in your relationship.
Dude, 100%.
And that book just taught me a ton about relationship styles and how people think about love, receiving love, giving love, etc.
I agree like that you're never done with a relationship, dude. I agree with it. Like that's so true because that's why we love golf, for example. Like not to bring up golf, but like it's one of those things you can't perfect.
Yeah.
And a relationship's like that. It's an ever evolving thing where you may not be getting in fights, but I like to kind of dumb it all down to like just be self-reflective. At the end of the day, you just need to kind of like if you need to, like you said, how am I coming off?
All right. Well, John Mayer, love is a verb.
Love is a verb, dude. Like, God bless him.
It ain't a thing. It's a verb.
God bless him. He's so right. And he's the best fucking guitar player ever, dude.
He's so good.
I mean, God forgive me. Not ever, but he's great. And but that's true, and it's what you do. It's what you do because you have to acknowledge how you're coming off. That's very true. Times change. People get complacent. Not just because there's a great line from that movie. I think it's 40. This is 40, where she goes.
I didn't like that. I
didn't like that movie either. I actually walked out of the theater, but there was one line in that movie that I liked. The woman says to the husband, she says to Paul Rudd, she goes, you think that because you don't yell that you're not mean, but this is fucking mean.
Yeah.
You can't do that to me. And that's the trap that people fall into a lot is that, we're not shouting. We're not yelling at each other. We're fine. But no, dude, you need to always acknowledge and tend to your husband or wife, whatever, your partner, because just because they're not saying anything doesn't mean everything's okay, Right. Sometimes people are just being nice and they don't want to bother you and whatever. And, you got to be self-reflective. Like, how would I love me if I was on the other end of this?
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, and the book talks about a lot of relationship stories where it's people who were together for 10 years and then they read this book or they went to the therapist who wrote the book and they start hashing out some of these issues and they're like, holy shit,
yeah, that's
not normal. I didn't even realize what we were doing. It's wild until you, like anything, you can always be doing a better job. And I think with love especially, it's a verb, and if you're not actively doing it every day, sometimes you have to remind yourself or kick yourself in the butt
all the time.
And a lot of times it comes in the form of a fight where you're like, oh shit, I should be doing better. But to be able to be conscious of how you are loving each other in a relationship is ultimate superpower, I think.
Sure,
it's cool.
I agree. That's a really good book, man.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting thing. And I like that you do that, man. I like that you do that a lot.
Yeah.
You'll read about something that you kind of know about already, but you're like, no, let's dive. Let's dive into this bitch.
Well, that's why I joined the fire department, for example. I mean,
yeah. I was thinking about that on the way over here. I was like, Kyle's, because we were supposed to record a little earlier, but you had a fire call, and you went to go address that, so we postponed
Hence
it for
the mustache.
Right, he's a fireman now. You can't be in the department unless you have a mustache,
which I didn't know. So I had a beard. I fluctuate between beard and fully shaved, whatever. And then when I joined the fire department, they're like, you're gonna have to shave that beard off. And I was like, really?
Mm-hmm.
So in order to put the oxygen mask on when you go into a burning building, you have to have a clean seal on your chin. So which is why every firefighter you've ever seen in your life is either clean shaven or has a mustache.
Sure.
So I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a method to the madness.
So I will never probably not have a beard for a long time now. And
you're taking it super seriously. You grew a mustache. You got a haircut. You're doing it. You're becoming a real good volunteer.
Yeah. For me, it's literally I love learning new things. I've always been curious my whole life.
Yeah.
And that's why I read books about subjects I don't know about. That's why I joined the fire department, because I'm like, I work in a tech job in the city. I'm a knowledge worker, right? I'm in Excel. I'm sending emails all day. I'm on conference calls. But
what am I doing?
When shit hits the fan,
that
do I
thing.
know anything useful, right? And I think moving into a house, you've probably experienced, you're a bit more handy than I am, obviously, but you move into a house and you're like, shit, I don't know anything. And when some of these guys come into the house and they're talking to me, they assume I know plumbing and I know HVAC. And
guys do assume in the blue collar.
And I'm like, I don't know shit. And so the fire department filled multiple things for me. One was I've always wanted to do some service or volunteer, and I've never really had an outlet to do that I've really liked or been passionate about. Two was I just wanted to learn. I was curious and wanted to learn more applicable skills into my life and to get my hands dirty and to really understand how things work, how things operate, and be able to be competent when shit hits the fan, to know shit and be someone who's useful to my family, to any average person.
Yeah.
And three, just it's a cool fucking thing. You know,
dude.
it's
They're heroes.
I told you, I went into town the other day for a call. It was it was 11 at night. In town, there's bars and stuff, and it was a Tuesday night, and we go to a routine call. There was a alarm that went off in the theater in town, and we get off the truck, and it's not a big deal. I'm kind of just standing around, and you see all the drunk people coming out of the bars, trying to take selfies with us and take selfies with the fire truck, and as we're pulling away, I got my arm out the window, my helmet off, and people are like waving to me, and we like honk back, and they're like, "Oh my god!" And I'm like, "Oh, this is cool."
They're like, "Oh," they don't know what to call you, but they're like, "Oh my god, it's."
It was the first time I realized I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm a firefighter." Like that's other people view that as like either sexy or like cool, and I'm like, that's also a nice little perk.
It is.
But
I knew a guy who was a fireman chief during 9/11, and he would always tell me stories, man, about the cleanup. And he was dude, this guy, yoked, big, 6'5", like big guy, bald, tats everywhere, covered in tattoos. And he was like, we were cleaning up, and he's like, dude, I'm telling you, I'm a married man. I've never done anything. He's like, but girls, like groupies, would be down there risking their lives, getting cancer to watch us shovel concrete, pull people out. He's like, girls love firemen, bro. Like they really, it's a real, you ever see that meme like, oh, I'm about to go burn my house down because it's a picture of a hot guy in a fireman. Like that's a real thing.
You also realize how fucking smart these guys are.
Sure.
The shit that, and like we're obviously volunteer in like a village that doesn't really get that many calls, but like to be an FDNY firefighter, the amount of knowledge you have to have. I'm going to firefighter school in 2 days. And it's a college course. You get like 7 credits for it if you actually wanted to do it. And it's 15 weeks. It's extensive, like class, quizzes, midterm test, like hands-on training. It's fucking hard. And you're like, these guys need to know everything. You need to know car accidents. You need to know how building construction works, how like building codes work, HVAC, plumbing. You need to know just how like hazmat, like hazardous materials. You need to know how batteries in electric cars explode versus motor. Like you need to know
different kinds of extinguishers and all that.
And in the city, you add in subways and all this shit. You just need to know so much. It's crazy.
People look up to these guys. You just do. Like you feel like safe around them. I don't know what's a feeling.
Literally,
like you just feel.
Literally, the first day I got like my equipment, I got like my badge, my pager, and everything. The first night, my pager went off, and I was like, "Oh fuck!" I was like so scared, and I like kissed Lauren. I'm like, "I gotta go. I don't know what's gonna happen." Like I literally like, I'm like,
"I'll be back later, babe."
I'm like, yeah, exactly. I like rushed down.
Anything happens to me.
Put on my boots, my jacket, and helmet, everything, and I get on the truck, and the siren goes off, and we're off. And it happens in like a blur, and
you got in the truck.
And
the whole thing.
So,
oh, that's awesome.
Long story short, I get back, and Lauren's like, "Oh my god, like how was it? Were you scared?" And I was like, "No, I've never been more calm in my life because you're surrounded by 6 of the most competent guys ever.
Dude.
That I'm just like." Oh, I trust these guys in my life, and I just met them today.
Yeah,
but you can just tell they're so fucking
good.
There's like you see them click into that gear of like, there's no fucking around. Like we're serious now,
right? And
they'll turn that switch easily between fucking around and serious. But when they're on that serious dial, you're like, oh, I'll do whatever the fuck these guys say. 10-4, Roger that. Like we gotta go. And I felt more calm than scared of anything because I was just like, whatever you say, I'm doing it. You've been doing this for 10, 20 years, so
there's a presence that they have a presence. It's real.
And it's gonna take me fucking years to get to that point, but
you don't get to that point until like all the guys that you worked with until that point are gone. You feel like I bet they don't think that about themselves is my point. Like you don't, you know what I mean?
You know what, to change the subject, I was just thinking about how my brother Tommy was talking to us about our podcast, and he's like, yeah, it's good stuff. He's like, you guys agree on too much.
Yeah.
It's like you guys don't disagree on shit.
Well, what the fuck are we going to disagree on?
I don't know.
I mean, like, yeah.
Yeah, what do we disagree on?
I don't know. I hate the Jews. No, I'm kidding.
What about LIV Golf? What do you think about LIV Golf?
Oh God,
we talk about that.
No, good. No, you know what I heard? See, that sucks because I literally heard today. Greg Norman had an interview. I think it was with Golf Digest, and he said, "Look, man, like it's a different kind of golf. The team aspect, 54 holes. It's not the same thing as the PGA in any sense. We're not claiming to be. So now golf fans." As far as I'm concerned, have an option. That's all. It's just an option. It's like watch LIV Golf, enjoy it, and then go watch the PGA on Sunday or Thursday, whenever we're whatever you want to watch, it's up to you. And
right. It's like the XFL when they came around.
yeah, he's like, well, yeah. I mean, it's a little more. I know it's more complicated than I'm making it right now. And Greg Norman has to say the most like,
course,
hey, what's the big deal? Like aspect opinion. But like at the end of the day, that's true. I mean, do I hate the league? Do I hate that it exists? Not really. I don't hate it. I mean, I miss Dustin Johnson. I miss Bryson DeChambeau. I miss Brooks Koepka, Cam Smith. But everyone else, Ian Poulter, do you really miss that guy?
Yeah. No.
Not really. You know?
Yeah.
But
And
like,
I think
and the PGA is still very strong. And they're going to do their thing now. Like, that's the thing. There's always a silver lining. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So now the PGA, they already solidified a competition between the PGA and the LPGA.
right.
So now the girls are going to be teaming up with the guys and having a competition, a tournament there. So that it causes things to
That's
happen.
why I think it actually puts pressure on the PGA
to be better.
who's just been stagnant for fucking decades.
Literally
to now
decades.
actually be like, oh shit, now we're gonna make things interesting. It's like, dude, what have you been doing the last 20 years?
Yeah, well,
you know?
they hang on the legacy, right? They hang
Yeah.
on the Masters, they hang on the Open, they hang on the PGA Champ, they hang on the Arnold Palmer Invitational, they hang on all that stuff, and like that all matters. That's all great, but like at the end of the day, and I don't agree with the LIV Golf. See, it's literally heaven and hell right now with like like the LIV Golf is doing like it's like about, and I'm like, dude, this is like, how am I supposed to chip with this going on, dog?
Yeah.
Like literally that, and like it's not, it's like Happy Gilmore over there,
it's
which
like
isn't
stupid.
and like the PGA still has their elegance, and like I think we need to meet in the middle. I hate saying the most cliche shit.
No,
in the
you know
world,
what I
but,
think it is? I think the PGA, they have things like the 16th hole at, the
Right.
Phoenix Open.
Exactly.
They have the Ryder Cup. Like, these are things that someone who doesn't give a shit about golf all of a sudden is like, holy shit, this is so cool. What is this? Like, my wife will lean in, and like women in the office will be like, oh, well, I heard about that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's like, do more shit like that.
Yeah,
like, it's very
simple.
simple.
Exactly.
And I think, like you said, golf has this like legacy aspect where it's like you have to tuck in your shirt, you have to wear knickers, and you have to shake everyone's hand and be respectful, and be about.
Remember when they started wearing hoodies?
It's
and,
like,
everyone
yeah, you can
flipped out?
still do that shit, but like make it more inclusive to people with different styles. Make it like skateboarding. Like let the golfers wear what they want to wear. Let them have personalities. Let them be a little abrasive. Let them be a little off kilter.
Like on the Full Swing documentary, Joel Damon's episode, he was talking about how after he ripped his shirt off at the 16th hole, which is the hole to do that on. It's not like he did it at the 16th at Erin Hills. Like he it's the place to do it, right? And he got a call from the PGA about like, hey, you can't do that, blah blah blah. And it's like, why? Everyone loved it. Everyone had fun.
I mean,
look
at tennis even. Look, tennis is not the benchmark of like cool, but they at least like they let their players curse off the umps.
Yeah.
I'm sure they get fined for that, but like they let these guys kind of wear eccentric outfits, like Andre Agassi back in the 90s and like Nick Kyrgios now. They at least lean into that a little bit, and I think golf just like they water things down to make it as like boring as possible. And it's like, let the guys wear shorts, let the guys wear bucket hats, let the guys like do celebrations and shit. I don't know, but like make it interesting in some respect. Do one hole at every event that's like the 16th hole. Do something cool. Do a longest drive. Make it interesting.
I would say not in the same sense. Like, don't make it the 16th hole, but like, yes, long drive, longest putt, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Do something like that. Like how when we have an outing, for example, like the outings we go to, like that kind of shit. Make it more like that.
Yeah.
Also, LIV Golf kind of fucked up in the sense of like the team aspect. I get it that's new, but that's not golf. Like even when you and I play, that's not golf. Like we're not on a team. It's me versus you. It's me versus myself. That's golf. It's an individual game sport that you're playing to be the best at amongst the field. And now there's a team aspect, and to me that just makes it not the same sport in the sense. Like it's not the same goal. Like there's so much more to me when you have to be alone on that course and you're versing yourself in that way. Like it's you against the ball, but like the ball's not even moving. It's really just you. And like now you're on a team and like you could eagle and then this guy triple bogeys and now it's over. Like it makes no sense as far as scoring, in my opinion. I don't like that,
It was so cool when we were watching. And by the way, I love Netflix, what they're doing with like the Drive to Survive Formula One, the Breakpoint with tennis,
incredible.
and now Full Swing. Like getting behind the scenes like that, HBO used to do it great with like Hard Knocks and 24/7 with like the boxing and stuff, and now Netflix has just taken that crown. But the fact that me and Lauren's like sat down to watch, we watched like the entire Formula One series.
My wife watched the entire thing by herself.
I mean, we watched the full swing. And she even said, she was like, very cliche, which we all know, but she was like, golf, it's like a metaphor for life. And I was like, yes, of course it is. But no, I mean, she meant it like sincerely. Yeah, no, it's true. Right. It's like, right. You get good breaks and bad breaks. Like sometimes you play out of your mind, and then like someone else just happens to have the best round of their life that day. Right. Like Rory at the PGA, right? Yeah, he played unbelievably, and Cam Smith just had like the greatest round ever. And one guy plays a perfect 4 days and then hits a bad tee shot on the 18th and loses. Like it's just.
I like when Justin Thomas, like that aspect of the game where he wasn't having a great week, but he was doing okay, and it just turned out that the top guys had a bad day on Sunday.
Right.
And he had a great day.
Yeah, it's just so equivalent to normal circumstances.
It's so equivalent to life in that way where, like,
you never give up.
Tortoise in the hair in that way. Like, whoever, listen, it's about the finish line. Like, you can run circles around me all day, but, like, at the end of the day, did I cross first? Yes, so I win.
Yeah, and I also like the fact that golf is, like, the great equalizer, which is, like, they keep trying to, like, elongate these courses, and they're like, these guys are hitting it too far. But it's like Bryson DeChambeau, drives it fucking 400 yards, whatever. He still can lose to Bernhard Langer, who's 65 years old and can barely drive it 220.
I was watching a tournament a few years ago where Matt Kutcher, he was like the leader all week, but Bryson, and Matt Kutcher took the lead on a Sunday, and that guy drives the ball 275 yards. Like it's nothing to do with distance.
It's just how many times it takes you to get in the hole. It has nothing to do.
These guys, the new guys, like that's the thing about LIV, like too, like the guys who left. I feel like it's all those guys that were trying to reinvent the wheel a little bit with the game by like driving 400 yards and like doing all these like super ridiculous spin shots from 200 yards out, like beating the shit out of the ball. And that's great and that's cool. And I could never do it. And you guys are 500 times the athlete I am, but you don't necessarily win every time with that. And those guys were doing that on the PGA, and they went to LIV because they had 2 years of fame from that, like the interest, like what's this guy doing? He's changing the game, blah blah blah, and then it fizzled out because they weren't winning. So like they were like, oh, I'll just take $100 million and go to LIV because I didn't dominate the PGA like I thought I would. I think that's a lot of it.
And that's like I feel like we were so spoiled, the Tiger, of like almost the expectation that the next great golfer will just dominate like Tiger did.
Yeah.
It's like you're never gonna get that level of
dominance. You're 100%
to be even just to be consistently a top 10 golfer is almost impossible. Like the only guy who was in the top 10 years ago and is still in the top 10 is Rory.
Yeah.
No one else has been that consistent because it's so hard to stay that sharp.
Yeah.
For just 1 year, let alone 2 years or 10 years. It's crazy.
No, Tiger, and I used to wonder before I got into golf, like, why is Tiger Woods like the greatest athlete in the world? It's just golf. Like, he's not, and it's like, dude, the amount of distance between him, number one, and number two, that's never been the case in any activity, not sport, any activity in the world. No one's ever been that much better at something than everyone else. I mean, it's literally it's unbelievable.
I think it was in like 2000. His average score, like his round, was like 68 or 67 or something like that. Average 67, I think. And
2 or 4 below par.
And the second best was like 70. It was like
so on his worst, on his least good day,
he was still 3 strokes above,
but -2 in some places. No, I mean, look, dude, the guy. I mean, no one will ever That's the thing. We are a bit spoiled with him because no one will ever.
I just saw something recently of like, what's his name, Portnoy from Barstool being like, he's like, I'm sick of all these Tiger Woods fanboys. He's like, all the foreplay guys. They're just obsessed with Tiger. He's like, Tiger's a fraud. He's this guy.
What?
And it's like, bro, shut the fuck up.
Fraud.
He's just trying to be like a contrarian and like be like, oh well, when Tiger eventually gets found out,
know what it is?
I was the one who said he was. It's like, fuck you.
These guys who have low intelligence. Sorry, Dave Portnoy, but like you're so brute that you don't understand. Like you're just like, he sucks, bro. He doesn't even make the cut half the time. And it's like, the guy's 46
years old. That's
actually
a good impression.
No, I know, but that's what he does. He's just like, dude, this guy's a fucking bum, bro. And it's like, dude, you're a fucking bum, first of all. And second of all, Tiger Woods is a billionaire from hitting a ball. Like, you can't dispute the fact. The guy was the best, no contest. Still is in a way. Iron play? You're going to tell me anybody still hits the irons that way? Like, say what you will about his putting. His drive is still 360. He had a 364-yard drive at the Genesis 2 weekends ago. His putting is garbage. Fine. But that's just, maybe his peripheral's fucked up because he's getting old. Whatever it is. His iron play, dude, he still hits it within 10 feet, maybe like 9 out of the 10, 18 holes during a round. I mean, the guy's incredible at golf. You know what I mean? It's just that these guys like Rahm and everything, like, they just have such a control right now because they're young and they're fucking hungry. And you got to remember, like, Slipknot talked about this because I know to bring up.
Where is this going?
Slipknot.
Every good sentence starts with,
like,
I know what Slipknot once said.
This Corey Taylor, the singer for Slipknot, was and this has to do with golf, was in an interview and they were like, I feel like you're not as angry, like the grit of Slipknot is not there as much as it used to be when you were kids. And he's like, yeah, because I'm rich now. When I was a kid, I didn't have any fucking money. I had nothing to lose, and I didn't. It's now that I'm already Corey Taylor. I'm quite frankly, I'm not angry anymore. So that grit, like that. So
I heard
golf is a game like that where you need that hunger to like.
Speaking of which, but on the music category, I heard Andre 3000 from Outkast say the same thing.
Yeah.
He's probably a top 5, or I don't know, depending on who you're talking to, at least a top 10 rapper of all time, just by lyrics alone. And he said that, and he's probably like in his late 40s now, getting close to 50. And they're like, why haven't you put out a song, or why aren't you rapping anymore? He's like, I'm not like young and cool anymore. He's like, rap is like a young, cool guy's game. Like you have to have a pulse of like, what's going on in the streets. You have to have a pulse of like what the neighborhood's doing. And it's like, I'm living in a mansion.
Dude. And that's being real.
Like, yeah.
That's being true to the art.
I have nothing to say that no one can be like, what the fuck are you talking about? You have no idea what you're talking about. Right. So I respect.
It's hard to write the Heretic Anthem on my private airplane. I don't.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I respect that to a degree, but it's also like, man, you can still find it. In some ways.
I think you can find it, and Slipknot still does. Like, their latest album is heavy as fuck, bro. Don't get me wrong. But there's something that you can't fake when it comes to the arts and it comes to the grace of Tiger Woods. Like, there's something like shooting that shot in the dark, like when he literally threw a dart, bro, in the pitch black on the 18th hole of whatever tournament that was. But there's just magic there, It doesn't matter about skill or finding it in that sense. Like, there's a bit of like an untouchable kind of like, oh, this guy's in like a thing, And it's the same with the Heretic Anthem. Like, you hear this, it's not just the notes, it's the attitude and the emotion through the mic that's coming at you through your headphones. Like, it's like you can't fake that. You can find it and you can replicate it. And it's like, yeah, Slipknot came out with a new album. It's great. It's heavy. I'll go see them. But it doesn't get you like, oh, like nothing else matters right now besides the Heretic Anthem.
Yeah, and it
doesn't make the world disappear.
And it's sad. Like we were joking on your bachelor party about like Eminem and like some of the stuff he's doing now, where it's like, dude, just kind of just slowly fade out. You know what I mean? Because now his reputation's almost getting tarnished by some of the things. He's still trying to be like a cool rapper and be relevant, and it's like, I love Eminem so much that I'm like, dude, I don't want you to tarnish your reputation anymore. And I feel like with Tiger, I remember how sad it was seeing him in like maybe 2014-ish, 2015. He was in the midst of all these back surgeries and stuff. And I remember at a certain point being like, oh, he doesn't have his Superman cape anymore. Yeah. It's not the same. No. When you see, like, it used to be in like 2007, when you saw him even on TV in the red, you're like, oh, fuck.
Bro,
like,
goosebumps.
You were just like, he's going, like, it's almost a statistical guarantee he's going to do something unfucking believable.
Yep.
To win or to like make it close or something. And in 2014, it had gotten to a point where it had been like 2-3 years, and it's just like, I don't think he's got that spark anymore. Yeah. And then of course he goes on to win the fucking Masters in 2019. And like, he's still, he can capture it.
Yes.
But it's just not, it's not omnipresent like it used to be. It used to just be that guy could walk on water.
Exactly.
You felt it when you saw him.
There's a great lyric from a Lamb of God song. It's called it's better to die quick, fighting on your feet, than to live forever begging on your knees.
Yeah, there's nothing more sad than when you see like an athlete just like play too long.
Man, maybe you hang it up now. And I'm not saying Tiger should hang it up. No. I believe in him. I know he can beat Sam Snead. I know he can win the record. I know he can do that. And I think it's just a matter of time before, like you say, it's more fleeting than it is omnipresent now. Like the Zozo Championship when he won in Japan, it's like, what? Like, why did that? Dude, he just had a day, you know?
Yeah, and it's at the point, luckily for him, where he doesn't have anything to prove anymore. Like, there's no, like, yes, there's a couple of records he could still beat, but like, at this point, the argument of like, who's the greatest? I mean,
There is no argument.
Yeah, it's like, well, Jack Nicklaus, like, you have all the statistics and stuff that could. There's certainly need to mention him there, but like, in terms of just pure dominance, like Tiger's the greatest to ever live. Like, there's no doubt about that.
No, hands down. I mean, Tiger Woods, bro. I'll never say a bad word about that guy.
No.
He's the GOAT. He is the GOAT. So, what else?
I think we're good.
I think we're good. I think we're going to wrap it up.
Yeah. Thanks, folks, for listening. And if you liked it, hit that subscribe button on the bottom.
Subscribe, like, the whole thing. It's not a fucking big deal. Just hit it. It's the thing. Just do it.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.